we are confident that Taiwan will continue to stand tall, free, democratic, and with dignity.
President Tsai says Taiwan cannot be isolated as she touches down in New York for a sensitive stopover, but not everyone is happy to see her. A grim discovery off the country's west coast. 16 bodies wash ashore in 1 month. Are a lack of sidewalks to blame for the country's shocking traffic safety record? Plus, young and out of cash? Maybe it's because the average salary has risen just $200 in 10 years. Hello and welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Eric Gao. Taiwan President Tsai has landed in the United States on a closely watched stopover. TaiwanPlus reporter Leslie Liao is traveling with the president, and he brings us this report from the ground.
President Tsai Ing-wen has arrived in New York City. She touched down at 2:49 p.m. local time for a stopover in the United States before she goes on to Taiwan's diplomatic allies in Central America, Guatemala, and Belize. Now, her arrival in the United States is just that, a stopover. And that's because Taiwan and the United States do not share official diplomatic relations, which prevents Taiwan's head of state from making an official visit to the United States. But what the two countries do share are strong unofficial ties, which allows President Tsai to land in the U.S.'s jurisdiction and attend events like these, which we're at right now, which is a banquet with overseas Taiwanese community members.
I do need to remind you of the tremendous challenges that we face. And in facing these challenges, we know that we are stronger when we stand together in solidarity with fellow democracies. Taiwan cannot be isolated, and we do not take friendship for granted. We're thankful to all those who stand with us, and we are confident that Taiwan will continue to stand tall, free, democratic, and with dignity.
And there are several VIPs in attendance at this banquet, including New York Senator Yi Wen-chu, as well as New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy, who was describing in great detail the strong relationship Taiwan shares with the state of New Jersey. Tomorrow, President Tsai is reported to be going to the Hudson Institute to receive an award. However, none of that has been confirmed by the government. However, if it happens and when it does, TaiwanPlus will be there to let you know firsthand. Eason Chen and Leslie Liao in New York City for TaiwanPlus.
Meanwhile, Washington is urging Beijing not to overreact to President Tsai's visit. Tsai is currently in New York before traveling to Central America for a 10-day visit to shore up alliances. She may meet U.S. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy while in California on the way back from this trip. China has threatened to retaliate if that meeting goes ahead. The U.S. State Department on Wednesday downplayed the significance of Tsai's transit through the country.
There is no reason to take countermeasures. There's no reason for Beijing to turn this transit, which is consistent with longstanding U.S. policy, into something it's not, or to overreact.
Tsai will be in New York until Saturday, but not everyone is pleased to see her there. Hundreds of pro-China protesters turned out to voice their disapproval. Jaime Okon was there.
Demonstrators prepare Chinese flags and signs in New York, where they are protesting a visit by Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen to the city. China has objected to the U.S. visit. Beijing says Taiwan is part of its territory and labels the country's leaders as separatists and attempts to squeeze Taiwan out of the world stage. Taiwan, a democratic country, says it has every right to connect with the world.
With just a few minutes before Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen lands in New York City and makes her way into downtown, hundreds of protesters have come out and holding signs saying that Tsai Ing-wen is a sinner, signs supporting the One China policy and a peaceful reunification of Taiwan. However, all of them are out here in opposition of Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen.
But on the other side of the street, a smaller demonstration supporting Tsai.
They want to make Taiwan as part of China, but Taiwan is Taiwan, China is China. That's two different countries.
没有关系，大家都自由平等，都可以来，我们不怕。
This is Tsai's first visit to the U.S. since 2019. Since then, Beijing has upped threats to take Taiwan by force and has been ramping up military pressure on the nation, including increasingly sending military ships and planes near the island. The tensions across the Taiwan Strait show no sign of abating, and this landmark trip from Taiwan's president has brought this friction onto the streets of New York. Howard Zhang and Jaime Okon in New York City for TaiwanPlus.
For more on President Tsai's visit, Bing Wang spoke to Jaime Okon, who you just heard from in that report.
So Jaime, what is the mood like outside of where Tsai is set to arrive?
Well, for the first couple hours, there was pretty much normal, basic street activity. But as the hours got closer to her landing in New York City and then making her way to downtown Manhattan, trucks with a bunch of Chinese flags started arriving across the street from where she was going to attend a banquet later that night. First, it started with a couple dozen people. So one or two trucks and a couple dozen people, and then slowly and steadily, as the hours got closer to her arriving, I spoke to one of the organizers there at the event, that they were organizing this protest event, and they said that it was a minimum of 500 people that were there that were protesting. Specifically, they were against Tsai Ing-wen, but they were for peaceful reunification of China and Taiwan. So they just wanted to be there and kind of have their own sort of welcoming party. As on the other side, there was another welcoming party for supporters of Tsai that were much closer to the hotel.
And what will we see from Tsai in the coming days?
Yeah, so New York is the first transit stop of her 10-day trip to Central America. So after this transit, she's going to go to Guatemala and then Belize. It's rumored, as I haven't heard anything about a confirmation yet, that she's going to receive a leadership award from the Hudson Institute think tank, either I believe tomorrow. But today she's attending a banquet organized by overseas Taiwanese. There are some other kind of state officials there as well. Officials from Taiwan are there as well, and the U.S. Taiwan representative Xiaobi Kim is also there as well. So this trip is just meant to kind of reaffirm ties with those allies that still have diplomatic relations with Taiwan, 13 that are left. And kind of, the whole name of this tour is this democracy tour. So kind of spreading democracy among like-minded countries.
Again, that was Bing Wang speaking to Jaime Okon, who was following President Tsai's trip in New York. Back in Taiwan, 20 dead bodies have washed up on Taiwan's west coast in the past 6 weeks. Police have identified 16 of them. Stash Butler has this report.
A body found washed up on Taiwan's west coast, one of 20 in the last 6 weeks. The discoveries have shocked the country and prompted a criminal investigation. Police say 7 of the corpses were Vietnamese migrants trying to get to Taiwan, and they're looking into the possibility that they were trafficked.
那如果是跟国际人蛇集团有关的话，也会要求国际的执法单位共同来合作尽速的来查办相关的事实。
4 corpses are still unidentified, while the remaining 9 are Taiwanese. Taiwan's interior minister says those people are unrelated to the Vietnamese case.
有9具是已经确认是国人，那他是因为轻生或者是落海所导致的，跟这个偷渡案呢可能没有关系啊。
People smuggling by sea to Taiwan is rare, but not unheard of. In 2020, police caught more than 30 Vietnamese migrants trying to land on the south coast. Prosecutors are working with the Coast Guard and local courts to investigate this case. And with 7 more migrants still thought to be missing, there could be more bodies bound for Taiwanese shores. Eason Pan and Stash Butler for TaiwanPlus.
Earlier this week, Amnesty International released its annual report on the state of the world's human rights. On Wednesday, the group's Taiwan office held a press conference where it called for more transparency in the government's human rights efforts. TaiwanPlus reporter Jaime Okon spoke with Amnesty Taiwan Executive Director Chou Yi-ling about the details of the report and where Taiwan can make the most improvement.
Now that we've seen the release of this report from Amnesty International, specifically about Taiwan, are there any bright spots for Taiwan in terms of upholding human rights?
One is the transnational same-sex marriage. And we saw that there were several case wins in the administrative court last year. And we also get the news about in the beginning of this year, most of the transnational same-sex marriage couples could registered in Taiwan now.
In which areas is Taiwan most in need of improvement, according to the report?
From the perspective of the migrant workers and the undocumented migrants, and including the refugees and asylum seekers, I think those areas are the most important area that might need to be improved. Their human rights situation in Taiwan. And recently we know that the parliament is reviewing some articles of the immigration law. And although there are some improvement about how to get better situation for the white-collar laborers in Taiwan, but if you see other articles in this draft, it's still a lack of the lawyer's presentation or lawyer assistance for those who face deportation issues, and also there are also residency issues for the undocumented migrants. They didn't deported to other countries, but they never get any legal status here.
Given this, what recommendations does Amnesty have for Taiwan's government to continue improving its human rights record?
Although we saw that the Taiwanese government already launched its human rights, National Human Rights Action Plan. In that action plan, I think it's still lack a lot of transparency and information, and how to do a better consultation with the civil societies, and how to work together with the CSOs to promote and protect these human rights.
That was Amnesty International Taiwan Executive Director Chou Yi-ling speaking with TaiwanPlus reporter Jaime Okon. The average monthly salary for young people in Taiwan is around $1,100 US. That's according to a new survey by the Labor Ministry. It also says that's up only $200 compared to 10 years ago. And with worsening inflation, young people in the country are finding it more and more difficult to balance their finances. Yujing Huang has this report.
Fresh out of college, Chen Liyi feels fortunate to be employed. While his pay is far from ideal, for many liberal arts graduates like Chen, just being in a steady job is considered something of a blessing.
低薪已经成为一个普遍的现象，对，然后大家就会面对这个低薪的现状有点无力感。就我身边要找工作，其实都要花几个月这样。主要还是看科系啊，就是像如果是科技业的话，可能就比较缺人。
Chen is far from alone in his concerns about income and employment. Newly released figures from Taiwan's Labor Ministry show that young people aged 15 to 29 had average monthly income of around $1,100 US last year. That's about $200 US more than the average salary for young people in 2012. The government says this is an overall increase of around 24% in 10 years. But for young people in the job market right now, there's an additional hurdle: inflation. Across the world, rising inflation has caused living costs to spike, while the purchasing power of money has dropped. And in Taiwan, it's no different. The financial pinch has particularly affected people with lower incomes and younger workers. An online job bank recently conducted a financial survey of people under the age of 39. Their findings show that it's now far more difficult for younger people to save money.
离乡工作者又有外食费啊、房租要负担，其实累积存款的速度是相当缓慢的。那以这个存款数字来看，平均只有12.4万，这是降至5年新低。
But even though many people are looking for work, Taiwan's labor ministry says job shortages remain a serious issue. Government data show that more than 30% of people want to find new jobs because their salaries and benefits don't meet their expectations.
你开出一个至少的合理的薪资为一个新进人员的起薪，不要是开一个那个跟行情完全不合的那个起薪，然后再来喊缺工，那就比较没有道理。
The latest government data also revealed that over 20% of people are now looking for jobs in other countries. There are concerns that if this trend is not addressed soon, it will become more challenging for Taiwan to hold on to its homegrown talent. Andy Xue and Yujin Huang for TaiwanPlus.
Coming up, Taiwan's former president is in China, but Beijing is stopping the Chinese public from hearing everything that he says. Find out more after the break.
In the face of adversity, the power of truth.
A roadmap for a just and open world. Charted by the freest country in Asia.
5, 4, 3, 2.
A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Ian Kavat. Taiwanese semiconductor giant TSMC.
Public buses to be electric by 2030. A mission that begins with listening.
And telling the stories of Taiwan.
In Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Drawing insight from original thinkers.
And sharing it with the world. TaiwanPlus News, a voice of freedom in Asia.
For more stories from Taiwan and around the world, please download the TaiwanPlus app.
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. China's state-run media has censored remarks made by Taiwan's former president, Ma Ying-jeou. Ma is on a 12-day trip to China, visiting various landmarks and discussing exchanges with Chinese officials. But all mentions Ma made of Taiwan's official name, the Republic of China, or ROC, have been scrubbed from China's print and TV coverage. During the trip, he said he was the president of Taiwan and the Republic of China. These comments were censored because the People's Republic of China does not consider the ROC a legitimate country. For more on Ma's trip to China, Bing Wang spoke to Roger Huang, a professor at Macquarie University.
So what are the goals of Ma's visit and why this time?
So I think Ma's schedule going to China is obviously well calculated in many ways. I mean, there's obviously a lot of coincidences, given that, of course, President Tsai herself is visiting overseas, obviously to allies via USA. But Ma, of course, timed his visit to China as part of the Qingmingjie, the tomb sweeping festival that is widely respected ceremony both in China and Taiwan, and it's clearly to advance that ideology or advance that political agenda, which has been consistent in Ma Ying-jeou's worldview, which is that Taiwan and China belong to the same Chinese nation.
When he was in China, he spoke about how he was the Taiwan president and ROC president. What is the significance of that?
So, given past precedents, there were concerns that Ma's visit to China would be utilized by Chinese propaganda to downplay basically the presidency of the Republic of China, Taiwan. And to a large extent, that is still true, right? I mean, you will not see this coverage even when Ma refers to himself as the Republic of China president or the president of Taiwan, which of course is not an official term or title. This will not be covered by Chinese mainstream media or actually really any Chinese media in China, right? But it is a calculated political points for Ma Ying-jeou and for the KMT. One, of course, the massive presidential and legislative yuan elections are taking place next year, early next year. So this will help again kind of mobilize the traditional basic blue pen blue supporters to say, look, we're returning to our roots. We're still a Chinese nationalist party. And two, it's also for Ma Ying-jeou to kind of retain his legacy and control of the KMT.
Do you think he will succeed in easing tensions between China and Taiwan?
I think we should not downplay Ma's intentions. I do think he is carrying out, from his perspective, good faith diplomacy. I think it's consistent with what he believes. To lower tension, to avoid a conflict between Taiwan and China, there needs to be dialogue. But also, I think, in my personal opinion, it's a bit of a naivety, given how we know the Chinese influence operations work.
Again, that was Macquarie University professor Roger Huang speaking to Bing Wang. In world news, Pope Francis is in hospital because of a respiratory infection. The Vatican said Wednesday that the Pope recently had trouble breathing but does not have COVID. He is expected to stay in hospital for several days of treatment. The 86-year-old Pope has a history of medical issues, including breathing difficulties. He had a serious bout of pneumonia in his youth and had part of one lung removed. The Pope revealed in December that he has prepared a letter of resignation in case he is no longer able to perform his duties. Japan has approved a new set of primary school textbooks aimed at digitalizing education using features such as QR codes. But the new materials are also proving controversial for glossing over wartime atrocities. The books say Chinese and Korean people volunteered to serve the Japanese military as soldiers and as sex slaves during World War II. The books also emphasize Japanese sovereignty over a series of disputed islands administered by Seoul. South Korea's foreign ministry has summoned the Japanese ambassador to object to these changes. This comes shortly after Japan and South Korea settled another long-running historical dispute over Tokyo's use of forced Korean labor. Tech leaders are calling for a 6-month pause in the development of advanced AI. Tesla's Elon Musk and Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak are among those who have signed a letter backing the halt. The letter says there are profound risks to society and humanity. Concerns about AI include its potential biases, its capacity to take human jobs, and its ability to spread misinformation. The letter comes just weeks after OpenAI announced GPT-4, an even more advanced version of the technology behind its ChatGPT. The letter says the break should be used to set up guardrails to ensure that AI is safe. And returning to Taiwan, new figures show Taiwan's road traffic death rate is 8 times higher than that of countries like the United States, Germany, and Japan. One of the problems? Pedestrians don't have anywhere to walk. Louise Watt reports.
A common sight on Taiwan's roads. Cars are supposed to give way to pedestrians on crossings, but they don't. Pedestrians have a green light, but so does traffic turning right.
他们开得太快，如果一个闪失一偏一点就撞到人，那个风险很大。
一半车袂，哎，啊袂吼，我也要过啊，吼，伊也袂让我会讲笨蛇。
Failing to yield to pedestrians and other traffic is a common cause of fatalities on Taiwan's busy roads. Official figures for 2022 show that more than 16,000 people were injured on Taiwan's roads and more than 3,000 were killed. Of those, almost 400 were pedestrians. Each day, nearly 47 pedestrians are killed or injured. The number of people killed on Taiwan's roads per 100,000 is 8 times higher than other advanced economies, including the United States and Japan. In Taipei, this counts as a pavement. Many users feel that it's actually not much more than an afterthought. It's simply painted green. There's no actual separation between users and the traffic, and it's not level. So if you have difficulties walking or you're in a wheelchair, it's even harder to negotiate. In other cities like Kaohsiung in the south, it's rarer to see any kinds of pavements. Illegal parking makes the problem worse, and walking to school dangerous.
因为这里是黄线，所以还是可以临停嘛。那有的家长就会停在这边等学校的小朋友上车。那你知道车子一停到这边来了，那小朋友走过来的时候都要绕了一大圈才过来，所以有时候是真的蛮危险的。
Why do so many roads in Taiwan lack a safe place to walk?
我要求要设，但是不设的有没有法则？没有。所以我们目前正在针对法令的这个部分，看看能不能有相关的法则，能够要求你，如果违反我们的设计标准的时候，看看有没有相关的法则。
The lack of pavements has become a political issue, with the main opposition party, the Kuomintang or KMT, using it to criticize the government.
大家常常讲说，政府你要鼓励生养生育。那你最基本的民众一条安全回家的路有没有提供？
The national government has previously asked local officials to improve road safety in their areas, calling the continuing rise in traffic deaths unacceptable. The fear for Taiwan's pedestrians and other road users is that Taiwan's high road traffic accident rate isn't going to come down without substantial changes to its roads. An ambitious prospect that will need lots of political will, as well as time and money. Damon Lin and Louise Watt in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. Finally, check out these 4 adorable cheetah cubs born in India. They're the first births in the country since cheetahs vanished there 70 years ago. I'm Eric Gao. Take care and see you next time.